1,900 workers under Microsoft's gaming sector were laid off this week, many of them Activision Blizzard employees, and that was just yesterday. Hey, it's Soul, and welcome to Warcraft Weekly, the show that'll try to make sense of it all. If you don't mind, hit the like button, subscribe for more coverage, catch me live on Twitch, and let's talk about what happened, starting with the plain old facts, and I'm gonna leave my takes and speculation towards the back of this video. There's lots of emotion and anger and judgment to share, and there is plenty of room for that. Let's just first lay out what we know, because as of this recording, it's not all that much yet. Early Thursday morning, a press release came out that Microsoft was about to lay off almost 10% of their workforce in its gaming sector. That's 1,900 roles, and notably, most of them would be from the recently acquired Activision Blizzard. The statement cited, quote, areas of overlap, which is a kind of a foregone conclusion. I mean, Microsoft didn't just buy a game studio, they bought a whole ass publishing company with like non-specialized roles in administration and support that's, sorry for the blunt talk, it would be considered redundant. Now, let's not forget that these redundancies are in fact human beings, some of who had considered Blizzard their dream job. They relocated, even traveling overseas. Throughout the early part of Thursday, staff was contacted and informed that their roles were being scuttled. Transfers happened in some cases, and depending on their tenure, laid off workers were offered severance packages and other benefits befitting their current situation. So far, I haven't found any news that detail what are in those packages, by the way. Everyone affected is sharing their own pain, but arguably the biggest casualty from layoffs is the unannounced survival game that's been canceled, and pretty much the entire team has been disbanded, with an unknown number of people laid off or cannibalized into other projects. According to an internal memo from Microsoft's president of game studios and content, Matt Booty, quote, Blizzard is ending development on its survival game project, and it'll be shifting some of the people working on it to one of several promising new projects Blizzard has in the early stages of development. Reportedly, many customer support staff were laid off too, including community managers and game masters who commonly oversee multiple games at once. Call of Duty and Diablo teams were hit. Overwatch 2 also seems to have taken losses on the creative side, with artists and animators being let go. From other social media posts, a few targeted layoffs happened across different games under Blizzard, Activision, Sledgehammer, ZeniMax, and others. There's one sector that appears to have been only minimally affected, and that's the World of Warcraft team. I've been keeping an eye open, and at least publicly, I haven't seen or heard of anyone share a departure. Now, of course, that's not to say that there were zero layoffs in the WoW team, or that in general these layoffs didn't affect the team's morale, with a bit of survivor's guilt and fears, of course, that in the next round they could be on the chopping block. I mentioned earlier that nearly all customer support positions, including game masters, were eliminated, and unverified sources report that those positions are being moved to a third-party vendor or maybe overseas, which is likely to affect quality and response time, especially over the next few weeks as they're transitioned. There are also a few high-level departures. Mike Ybarra, the president of Blizzard and former Microsoft executive, left the company to seek hyper-growth opportunities, and also leaving Alan Adam, the last co-founder of the original Blizzard. In public statements, their leaving was, I guess, voluntary. Whether that's like succession speak, I'll leave that to your imagination. And that's where we're at the moment. A handful of limited facts pulled from press statements, social media posts from affected ex-employees, and of course, there's lots of speculation and anger and frustration across the internet. Take this little bit of information as you will, draw your own conclusions, and of course, feel free to share them in a comment. And since I'm sitting here, I'll go first. It's kind of funny, okay, not really funny, but just a month ago we were like, ha ha, sucker, Bobby Kotick, goodbye, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out, or something like that, right? I admit that I distracted myself from the crushing reality that was to come. Since the buyout was finalized, we were told by Microsoft that there'd be no significant changes or announcements until 2024. So it's like, okay, cool, yeah, just let the news of the buyout settle, relax, enjoy BlizzCon and the holiday break, and okay, cool, it's been long enough, it's time to begin our dark work. And what's happening over in Blizzard Microsoft land, it's not an isolated incident. Riot Games, a massive gaming studio, let go of over 500 people just the other day. And in other sectors of the tech world, in spaces like Amazon and eBay and Google, there have been more layoffs. I'd love to believe that something as simple as unionizing would be a solution that was just always a thing, but there are so many factors to consider, at least here in the United States. Unlike other unions that cover education, healthcare, construction, manufacturing, and more, unionizing tech workers is a unique challenge for a bunch of reasons. Pay disparity isn't regulated at all for the most part. New job specializations appear and disappear regularly. The culture of tech workers typically is to just move to different companies in order to get raises or elevated positions rather than, getting promoted within the company. And consider how competitive the job market is even without the protection of a union. And the other side of remote work, we got to consider that too, where companies can just find workers virtually anywhere. I'll even throw in bringing workers in with visas and offering remote work from other regions, and hey, there's always good old outsourcing. What I'm trying to say is that there are a lot of obstacles to get a large tech worker union. There are solutions to talk about, of course, but that's way outside of my scope of expertise. Feel free to chime in though. It's unfortunately no surprise that entry-level work like community management and game master work, basically customer service, is being outsourced to save costs when we consider rising costs in this country due to inflation and pressure to raise wages. Here in the area that I live in, there's a special mandated minimum wage for fast food, and it's $20 an hour. Now that's great, that's a lot of money, but it challenges companies like these to pay up or to cut costs by using automation or lobbying governments for tax breaks to continue doing business under these new requirements, or there's just, closing down and it would depreciate the local community. This gets really complicated really fast, and again, this has nothing to do with the World of Warcraft, I know. Workers all over ought to have better guarantees when the market looks unfavorable. Blizzard and Riot are reportedly doing their diligence with reasonable severance packages, but of course, that's not enough. It's fair to say that it wouldn't do a gaming studio a favor if they kept their staff employed out of principle, only to close down because they ran out of cash and everyone ends up losing. Of course, it's also fair to point out that Microsoft is a literal trillion-dollar company and has immense capability to play the long game, unlike smaller publishers and studios. I'm bummed about the unannounced survival game being forever unannounced, re-securing Blizzard as a studio that produces a very small number of unique IPs. I'm not counting on it, but it would be awesome if down the line this game could be salvaged into something else, a la Overwatch. I do find it odd that they're pulling out of the survival game genre, which is becoming a bit more lively these days. Games in this particular space have a unique staying power with a focus on single player or small community gameplay. Like Fallout 76, despite being panned by players and critics during its release, it continues to run since its launch in 2018, and it still receives updates using cosmetics-based monetization to give its dedicated fanbase a feel of customization and ownership. Palworld, a breakout hit in the survival genre that launched in early access just a week ago, is a clear message that there's interest. There's one silver lining here. It's not even a positive takeaway exactly, just food for thought. There are unverified reports, but by and large, the World of Warcraft team was not affected by these layoffs to a large degree, at least not directly. We'll see how things go with the customer and game master services, and again, there may have been layoffs that are just under the radar. Still, seeing that the team is mostly intact, it sends a strong dose of copium my way that the year of 2023, between Dragonflight and Hardcore Classic and Season of Discovery, the overall positive reception and the roadmap through 2024, all those things are what helped the WoW team avoid the chopping block this time. So the social media posts, the metrics, the responses from gamers, maybe even the lobbying directly from staff within, it convinced leadership that WoW is still a good investment. There's no shortages, of course, of grievances, and the WoW team could always do better, but we can say that right now, they did things right. According to Holly Longdale, the 2024 roadmap is not being affected. Whether you believe it is up to you, but the gesture of reassurance is certainly felt by me. For now, this is where we're at. And there's that question, what can be done? What can we do? What voice do we have? There's always posting on social media, airing our feelings. As consumers, we can always vote with our wallets. Whether that's effective or not, well, for those who have been paying attention, the Pal World game that I mentioned was brought up a lot in the news this week, with fierce accusations of AI use and trademark infringement, but also massive sales. It's clear that there's a significant audience out there who doesn't pay attention to the details of what goes on behind the scenes, how the sausage gets made, and if anything, controversy translates to buzz and sales. It makes you think that regardless of how we might feel about certain principles or want to take a stand, by and large, gamers are going to be gamers first, and they're just going to spend. I can see why this whole thing can feel frustrating. It's easy to get angry and lash out, maybe break from the game, or like have an outright boycott. Maybe that'll work. Or perhaps lashing out at fellow gamers who keep playing like, wow, I mean, they're nothing but corpo shills and bootlickers, right? But let me end this with a quote from Orlando Salvatore, the lead server engineer from the World of Warcraft team. In a tweet, he wrote, "What we develop and the surprise and delight we bring players shouldn't be overshadowed by decisions and news outside of our control. It oftentimes is. You and everyone else can help us by being excited to play the games and content we pour our hearts and souls into. Telling you to move on and keep playing games, it's pretty gross and insensitive to just say, right? Unfortunately, the world is not very sensitive. It's gonna keep spinning. Tomorrow is a new day, and we can only control what we can do. So this won't come as any surprise. I'm gonna keep carrying on and keep playing my favorite game. I'm still gonna be excited for whatever the hell this flag is for and what the WoW team has in store for us in the future. That's the show, and I want to extend a very heartfelt thanks to our viewers on Twitch during the Drops promotion. Your support has been massive, and I hope many of you come back to hang out. To our patrons, I'm always grateful for the generosity, and to you, viewer, you made it to the end, you failed the algorithm, I'm very grateful. Please hit the like button, subscribe for more coverage, catch me live, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.